She raised him like her own, gave him everything, and he repaid her by kicking her to the curb. It was a Thursday afternoon when Evelyn stood on her front porch, holding groceries, and realized her key didn't fit. The deadbolt had been changed. Ryan's girlfriend, Natalie, cracked the door open. "You weren't supposed to be back until later. Why can't I get in the house?" Evelyn asked. "You don't live here anymore," Natalie said flatly. "Ryan said you agreed to transfer the deed. Remember all those documents at the kitchen table?" Slowly it clicked. The forms Ryan brushed off as just housekeeping, saying it would protect the house if anything happens to you. She had trusted him. She had trusted her son. The door shut again, locked. Evelyn stood there for 10 minutes before walking down the steps, that rotisserie chicken still under her arm. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she wasn't going back inside. Back in 1996, Evelyn was a night shift nurse at St. Joseph's Hospital in Jackson, Mississippi. She'd made peace with not having children after 2 miscarriages and failed IVF. Then one night, 2-year-old Ryan came in with a broken wrist, pale, underfed, abandoned by his foster mother. Something about Evelyn made him feel safe. 6 months later, he had her last name. Her friends thought she was crazy. A single black woman in her late 30s adopting a white toddler with behavioral issues. "Girl, you trying to save the whole system?" "No, just this one," she'd reply. Evelyn gave Ryan everything. A race car bed, packed lunches, swimming lessons, piano lessons, Saturday zoo trips. When he had asthma, she found the best pediatrician. Trouble reading, she hired a tutor. She never missed a parent-teacher conference. But as Ryan grew, he grew distant. By high school, he barely came home. In college, visits became quick overnights with his phone in hand. Still, Evelyn kept the lights on and his old room ready. Then her husband Leonard passed, and suddenly Ryan started coming around more. He mowed the lawn, brought Natalie, sat on the porch while Evelyn made cornbread. She thought things were healing. But Ryan hadn't come home to rebuild, he came to take inventory. Evelyn spent that first night locked out in her car, 2 blocks from what used to be her house. She didn't cry, but grief sat heavy in her lungs, not from losing people, but from realizing who they never were. The next morning, she went to the bank. The balance was still there because Ryan never even knew it existed. After Leonard died from a misdiagnosed blood clot, Evelyn won a malpractice lawsuit no one thought she could, $9.5 million. She moved it into a separate trust under her maiden name. Money changes people, and some things are better left under the radar. Ryan didn't just betray her trust. He underestimated her. She booked a motel room in Meridian and found an old note she'd written years ago. "Don't let money make you loud. Let it make you quiet. Let it buy you time." Ryan thought he kicked her out, but he had no idea he'd just set her free. The Sunday Ryan brought those papers, Evelyn was folding dish towels while a sweet potato pie baked. "Just stuff to help with taxes and the house," he said casually. "Cleaning things up on the back end." Natalie chimed in from her phone. "It's just a way to protect your assets, Miss Carter. Avoid probate." "I didn't ask to avoid anything," Evelyn said quietly. Ryan chuckled. "If something happens to you, God forbid, it would be a mess. This just makes sure things stay in the family." He handed her a pen. "I highlighted the signature lines. You don't need to worry about the rest." She signed because Ryan was her baby. The one who cried when she walked past his crib. The one who needed an inhaler. When he got excited, that afternoon was the last time she'd sit at that kitchen table. The day Ryan called her a guest in her own home, Evelyn was vacuuming. He walked past her like she was the cleaning lady. "Hey, next time you use the Dyson, can you empty it? We've got realtors coming this weekend." "You selling the house?" He chuckled. "Not yet. Just exploring our options." "Our options? You're a guest now, Mama. Legally, well, you know how it is." That night, she packed her small bag for real. Her Bible, notebook, 2 dresses, 1 pair of sneakers, and her wedding band. She called C.J. Bell, Leonard's old lawyer friend. They met at a diner off I-20 the next morning. "You look like hell," he said, sliding into the booth. She told him everything. The forms, the changed locks, the guest comment, Natalie, the realtors. CJ listened without interrupting. He tricked you, played you, but he made one big mistake. What's that? He forgot who raised him. I signed the deed over, CJ. Yeah, but signing under false pretenses doesn't mean it's legal. We can take him to court. I'm tired, CJ. I just want my home back. Then let's not destroy him. Let's teach him something. Then Evelyn said what she hadn't told anyone. I've got money, CJ. Settlement money from the hospital. 9.5 million. CJ nearly dropped his mug. You've been sitting on $9 million and letting this boy run circles around you. I didn't want money to change the way I loved him. CJ reached across and touched her hand. It didn't. He changed all on his own. Before the lawyers and hearings, Evelyn needed one final conversation. She showed up unannounced. Ryan answered in gym shorts, holding a protein shake. His face tightened. Ma, Evelyn, what are you doing here? I raised you when nobody else would, she said through the screen door. I gave you every ounce I had. And I never once made you feel like a guest in this life. Her throat was tight. And you repaid me with a signature and a changed lock. You signed, Ma. It wasn't like I forced. Don't call me Ma if you don't mean it. She straightened her shoulders. I'm not here to argue. Just to tell you I know what you did. And you should know, I'm not broke. Never was. I've got enough money to buy this house 10 times over. Ryan's face changed. Disbelief, then panic, then shame. I didn't know that. You weren't supposed to. Because love ain't a business, and loyalty can't be bought. But now I know, and so do you. I've already spoken to a lawyer. You're going to sue me. No, she said, I'm going to remind you what a real home costs. 3 months later, the house was empty. The fraud petition passed quickly. The judge said Evelyn had clearly been misled. Ryan never showed up to the hearing. He'd already left the state. Natalie went back to Dallas without him. Evelyn didn't move back in. Too many ghosts. Instead, she bought 3 homes in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and turned them into safe housing for women over 60 who'd been evicted, displaced, or abandoned by their families. She named it Len's Place after her late husband. The first resident was Alma, 74, kicked out by her grandson. The second was Darlene, whose daughter sold her house while she was in rehab for hip surgery. Evelyn cooked Sunday meals for them all. They swapped stories about who hurt them and who they survived. 1 year later, a letter arrived. No return address, just her name in handwriting she hadn't seen in almost a year. I messed up. I see that now. Maybe I thought I was owed something. Maybe I never understood what you gave me. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted to say it. You didn't deserve what I did. I hope you're okay. Ryan. Evelyn read it twice, then folded it and placed it in the back of her Bible, not to forget, but because some things are meant to be remembered without being relived. She didn't write back. She didn't need to. Forgiveness wasn't about letting him off the hook. It was about freeing herself from the grip of what he'd done. She knew something now. You can love someone fully, raise them right, give them your everything, and still lose them. Not because of who you were, but because of who they chose to be. And that's not your shame to carry. Evelyn leaned back in her chair as the crickets tuned up their evening song, each chirp steady and certain, like a promise the night was keeping just for her. The porch boards beneath her feet were worn, uneven, and imperfect, but they were hers. She closed her eyes for a moment and breathed in the scent of dust, wood, and warm air, feeling something she hadn't felt in years: peace. A home wasn't just a roof. It wasn't walls, or deeds, or signatures stamped by strangers who never knew your sacrifices. A home was the quiet safety of knowing you belonged. It was laughter echoing down a hallway. It was someone calling your name, not because they needed something, but because they wanted you there. And after everything she had lost, everything that had been taken, Evelyn had built that kind of home again, slowly, painfully, from the ground up. No paperwork needed, no permission required. There was a time when the world had tried to convince her she was nothing without what it had stripped away. Titles, status, security. They told her love could be transferred like property, that motherhood could be erased with ink and lies, that power belonged to the loudest voice in the room. For a while, she almost believed them. Almost. But real love doesn't work that way. Real love can't be stolen in the night or reassigned by force. It lives in the small, invisible moments, the scraped knees she kissed better, the nights she stayed awake listening for footsteps, the meals stretched too thin but served with care. It survives abandonment, betrayal, and time. It grows stronger when tested, because it was never built on convenience to begin with. And real mothers don't fold. They bend. They endure. They break and still get back up. Even when the world doubts them. Even when they doubt themselves. Motherhood isn't proven in courtrooms or documents. It's proven in consistency, in sacrifice, in the choice to show up again and again when it would be easier to walk away. Evelyn had shown up when no one was watching. When no one was clapping. When no one thought it mattered. That was her quiet rebellion. Real power doesn't scream. It doesn't threaten or dominate or demand to be seen. Real power builds. It rebuilds. It lays one brick at a time, even when hands are bleeding and the future is uncertain. It plants roots in broken soil and trusts that something will grow. Evelyn didn't need revenge. She didn't need applause. Her strength was in what she created after everything was taken away. As the night deepened, a light flickered on inside the house. Warm, steady, someone was waiting for her. She smiled, a small, knowing smile, and stood up from the chair. She hadn't just survived, she had built again, quietly, deliberately, from the ground up. And this time, nothing and no one could take it from her. What she created now was different from everything that had come before. It wasn't held together by fear or appearances, and it didn't rely on anyone else's approval to stand. Each day she added something small but meaningful, a repaired step, a shared meal, a conversation that ended in laughter instead of tears. These were the details no one ever saw, yet they were the very things that made the foundation unbreakable. She had learned patience the hard way. Not the kind that waits passively, hoping things will improve, but the kind that keeps moving even when progress is invisible. There were mornings she woke up tired before the day even began, carrying memories that still ached. But she no longer let those memories decide who she was becoming. They were reminders, not anchors. Proof of how far she had already traveled. Trust, once shattered, had been rebuilt slowly, first in herself. She stopped apologizing for surviving. She stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. Every boundary she set was another beam reinforcing the structure of her life. Saying no became an act of self-respect. Choosing peace over chaos became a habit. Over time, the quiet stopped feeling lonely and started feeling safe. The people who found their way into her life now were different too. They didn't arrive demanding space. They fit naturally, like they had always belonged there. They saw her strength without being threatened by it. They valued her presence, not her usefulness. With them, she didn't have to perform resilience, it simply existed. What once felt like loss revealed itself as clearing. The ground had been stripped bare so something truer could rise in its place. She finally understood that being taken apart wasn't the same as being destroyed. Some things have to fall so they can be rebuilt correctly. Now, when she looked ahead, she didn't see fear or uncertainty waiting for her. She saw possibility. She saw mornings filled with purpose, evenings softened by connection, and a future shaped by intention rather than survival. The past no longer reached for her throat. It stayed where it belonged, behind her. What stood now was not fragile. It was weathered, tested, and proven. And in its quiet strength, it carried a truth she would never again forget. What is built with integrity, love, and self-respect cannot be taken. It can only be honored.